What's going on, Scripture Surfers? I'm glad you're here today. It's going to be a lot of fun on what I cover. It's all about offshore trolling. I took a lot of time and energy to do research to figure out what I wanted when I headed out offshore, but I kind of got overwhelmed by all the lures that were out there. There were tons of artificial rigs set up for different species, and I'd buy them and wasn't really sure exactly what would work well. And these things cost money. They're expensive. Some of my gear is anywhere up north of $80 per lure. So I don't want to rig that thing up, take all that energy to go out there and then have it just bust off when I catch a fish and then be bummed that I actually lost the fish and the lure. So my hope today is that you guys are able to stick around and experience the different lures I have, from everything to catch small game fish like small mahi all the way out to big wahoo and tuna, the big old game fish that we'd love to catch. So stick around, I'll show you guys a ton of info related to all the different lures that I have. I think we're gonna hook up with something big. Oh! Well, keeper king, man. There we go. Is it a Goliath? It's a Goliath! Oh! That is the biggest golden tile I've ever seen. It's a sea monster. Oh my gosh, that is a big fish. God's providing, which he does well. All right, guys, so the first lure I'm going to show you is Mr. Mahi. So again, going after mahi specifically, this will get you some small to medium sized ones. So as you take out the lure, it's pretty simple. Inside of the head, this has already been pre-rigged, you have a little weight. That little weight is going to help it to be able to sink. So you control this on a planer, you can control it top water just as it is. There's really not much you need to do. You can even cast this into a school of mahi and you'll tie up if they're after artificial lures that day. So this is something basic and easy, Mr. Mahi, pre-rigged, easy to go. All right, guys, so now I'm gonna show you what I use to just use top water trolling for mahi, tuna, king mackerel, different types of species that you're gonna find inshore a little bit more, maybe like 20 miles or so. I kind of consider that inshore. But here you go. What you have are really non-rigged lures. So right now on any of these, I don't have any hooks. The only one that does is the pre-rigged ones you'll get in the packets. So here you've got some islanders. These are very common, the blues and the whites, a lot of flare and flash. And you just basically put this over a rigged ballyhoo, or you can go ahead and put it over any type of a bait fish you're trolling, or naked and simply just, again, as is here, have a hook with it. Now these are specific. These ones from Fathom Offshore I really like. They're inexpensive, they're chuggers, they're rubber, they hold up well, but basically, as you can tell from the packet, they are meant to go after mahi. So again, here you get a jet stream that comes out of the head of this black Bart one, and what you'll find is that this thing really does go after mahi. So it'll troll in the water, come up for air, catch air, dive back down, create a huge jet stream behind it, come back and repeat. So it's important that you have this on the front side of the waves when you're trolling. So again, I have 8 to 9 of these. They don't have to be expensive, readily available, that I can just throw on some stuff to tackle. And again, you'll get wahoo smacking it all the way out to tuna. All right, guys, the next thing we're gonna look at are cedar plugs. So cedar plugs, obviously for cedar wood, which is the type of material that's used to make it. It's pretty simple. It's just a plug that slides up and down the line. So as soon as your prey hits it, it pulls back on the hook and your cedar plug simply slides up the rigging, leaving the fish exposed with the hook, and ideally not creating wear and tear on these things. They can get hit pretty hard by toothy critters such as kingfish. You will catch tuna on this a lot, bonita. Mahi will hit it, although generally, like I said, tuna, bonita, and kingfish are what I will generally catch on these. Pay attention to them as you go to purchase them. This one has a knock in the back, a little wood track to be able to hold the hook, keeping it facing upward, which is traditionally the way that you'd want to fish these. Again, if it spins below and underneath, that's okay. Although what you typically find is your hookup ratio, from what I've read and understand, is that it's better when the hook on the lure is facing up. So again, cedar plugs, I would recommend having a couple of those to troll. You do top water, you don't add any extra weight, and they just bounce all over the place, creating a lot of commotion. Next up, we have tuna and mahi feathers. Guys, you're gonna wanna have these first placed out, so you're gonna put them first out when you're trolling, in your shotgun, in the center, longest out. So you can pick these up in many variety, but really they are just for top water, no added weight. There's a little weight in the head, that's it. But these are just gonna skip over, create a lot of flash, and what you're gonna get are bonita, tuna, and mahi. An item I love taking with me is this right here from Bait Strips. Bait Strips is an awesome artificial rig. In effect, I use it to catch kingfish, mahi, tuna, bonita, you name it. But what they are these halogen looking strips of bait. You have different sizes, as you'll see here, medium to large and a few others. But what it is mono followed by a skirt with a sea witch with a little lead on it, and then it goes to 2 hooks. And then you rig these bait strips on to these 2 hooks, creating what would look like a bonita strip trail bait. And you're gonna catch a ton of fish on this, guys. You can planer fish these, top water them. You really can't go wrong. I'd highly recommend checking them out. One of the things I like to use as well are these sort of flashers that have a weight in them. So if you look, you've got like a little weighted head in there with eyes. It comes into the spring that you would use into a naked ballyhoo. And then you've got your weight, obviously, and this would rig inside the belly of the ballyhoo facing downward. So this is a great rig. I have them to float over top of other sort of dead bait that I would troll. They've got them called bonnets and other types of rigging, but these are great. You can pick them up at any local bait and tackle shop. Anything that creates flash. Now, one of the things you can make are hooks with a spring on the top that goes through what you would troll would be specifically here a bonita strip. If you're trying to find them pre-made, already ready to go, I would check out Blue Action. They've got them in different sizes. So here you can see I've got a 9/0 hook and then 10/0 and 11/0 hooks. So these are great for being able to troll bonita strips, pre-rigged, ready to go. You can build your own with these sorts of setups in them, mylar strips, you name it. Now you're starting to see some other type of artificial lures that are top water. So this is the DeBros setup that I've got in my first video. You can go check out talking about gear that I go offshore with that I have to have. This just keeps everything organized. As you can see, I've got 13 different lures on here, but they're rigged with hooks, and the hooks get set up inside of these little black posts to keep you from getting stuck. Obviously that doesn't work if you have a double hook setup, but I'm able to keep all my mahi lures, my bait strip set, ready to go. When I need something, I just pop it off, take it, unwind it, and it's ready to go. Everything is secured by these little rubber stoppers that go in on the wind. So it's super easy. Again, this is a great setup for going offshore. I've got chuggers, I've got little jets, I've got the mylar flashers, and then a bigger set ready to go for in case I come across a big school of mahi. One of my favorite lures is from Zack Attack. Of course it's named Zack Attack. Zack is an awesome name. But in all seriousness, this guy started this out of Australia, and man, these lures rock. They are heavy rigged. This is ready for wahoo, tuna, I mean, you name it, anything offshore that's big is gonna bite this. It is cable wired, ready to set up, where you could do it on your own or pre-purchase it like this, which is what I've done. So you've got heavy duty crimps, heavy duty wire in there, so if you get a big toothy critter, you don't lose this rig. It's called Thunderstruck, and this thing in action, if you were to watch a YouTube video on it, it just climbs up in the water column, gets air, comes down, and swivels left and right and just looks absolutely like a bait fish. Highly recommend it. You're gonna catch some big game offshore with it. It's got a really unique cupped head right here. And then on the side, these ridges, if you can see them, allow you to really just pick up some water and slide left to right. As you start to troll, you really want to get into different heights within the water column. So to be able to do that, you're going to either need a planer to planer fish and bring your bait down lower, or lure, or ideally you'll have a lure that's already got a scoop built onto it, such as this. So as you can see, there's a variety that I have, all different sorts of application, different colors, and different depths. So most important, you want to pay attention to the depth it is at. Your larger lures that dive deeper and are larger, you want to keep them closest to the boat, right out of the prop wash, but deep, around 40 feet. This one in this instance is 25 feet. This is specifically for grouper and shallow reef that I want to go troll through. So again, just looking at the different lures, you'll be able to identify which heights you can get and stagger them at different levels. The next item I want to highlight is simply for tuna. I mean, you might catch something else, but for the most part, it's really meant for tuna, and these are called poppers. So as you can see, it's got a really big cupped face, followed by 2 sets of treble hooks, ultra sharp. So this thing just mirrors a bait fish darting through the water that's in stress. So when you're out and you're seeing birds dive on your radar or just visibly, and you're seeing fish smack up to the surface, cast one of these out. They're heavy, they've got a long cast length to them, and retrieve with short jerks to be able to just cup that water out, and you're gonna get tuna left and right. Guys, I'm gonna tell you about this flying fish lure that I found from Nomad. It's newly released. This thing is amazing. There's different sizes. This one specifically that I'm gonna show you here is the 200. And in it, it's a nice packaging. They give you a lot for rigging. You basically get a couple rubber bands to be able to tie on the hooks the way you want. This little device stops the leader line from whichever hole that you'd like it to go through. There's multiple different ways to rig this. They give you a little plastic sheath. That plastic sheath is used to hold the hook inside a track that's on the top of the fish. They give you a screwdriver specifically for the wings, because the wings are able to be interchanged if either they're damaged or you want to switch the color. And then you'll also receive a hook followed by a green bead. They do not give you the crimps or the mono. That is for you. But in effect, what happens is you get this little hook right here and then a bead that you place behind it. I've crimped on the hook they've given me with a 100-pound test mono, and then I crimped on a second line that goes over to a treble hook. So as again, if a species of fish is coming up below, they're seeing that profile of the wings open. You see that? I mean, it just opens up and it'll skip over the top of the water. But from below, you're just getting this profile. The fish can't see the hooks. It just sees a flying fish going through the water, trolling at about 4 to 6 knots. And this is one of the larger of the spread, so I'd keep it a little bit closer to the boat, and I've got a smaller one that would go out further. But again, when it hits, I've got twice the likelihood of hookup because I've got hooks in the back and a hook in the middle. So if it hits the tail, which is usually the case, I'm not going to lose it. They're very durable. They've also got ball bearings inside of them, so you can hear the rattle. It just is going to cause a lot of commotion, and the wings open and close, but when you're trolling through the water, it'll stay open and skip across the water. Really cool setup from Nomad. Another type of flying fish lure I have is more of this rubber one. So the Nomad one is more of a hard casing. As you can see, this is like a gelatin mold. So here are the pros and the cons that I can see from either one of these. The con about this rubberized one is the material itself. I mean, I haven't even really fished with this thing, and already it's starting to die from other lures in my bag. The wings actually look like they were glued on, so I could see over time this is just going to fall apart, especially if I get hit by a toothy critter. The pro of it is it does have a lot of flash. It's not as expensive as the Nomad, so if it broke off or if it did get destroyed, I'm not going to be as sad about losing this one in particular as I would the Nomad. But both of them give the silhouette and profile of a flying fish. The negative to this is it doesn't come in multiple sizes. So if again I wanted to target different species, I'm going to use the Nomad one with the small, medium, and large ones that they have. Whereas in this case, I just have the one, and unless I really got creative with it, I'm stuck with the one hook through the belly versus the top. You could argue that potentially a fish might catch that and spook it off or miss the strike, but I don't know. We'll try it and see what comes out best, and I'll show you guys in a follow-up video of that. Guys, we're going to look at Wahoo lures now. These are specific to high-speed Wahoo trolling. These things just buzz through the water. I mean, in effect, you could probably get some of these up from 18 to 25 knots, depending on the size and the design of the lure. I really do have a lot, all for different water column heights, speeds, and conditions. But here what you'll find is this does not have a bill to help it dive, So lures like this are probably going to go anywhere from 2 to 6 meters down in water. And what you'll see here is they just have a lot of rattle with them and flash, but they're heavy. So they're able to hold straight and go fast. Very similar setup with this Magbay lure I found. The only difference between these two is I have heard that Wahoo really tend to go after the silhouette of black and red better. Who knows, maybe that's just an old trick of the trade, but it seems to be on tons of videos that I saw and confirmed from captains. The nice thing about this one specifically is when you troll, this lure or the hook right here actually disconnects and it's set up on a magnet. So as soon as that fish strikes, the profile is designed to keep it close to the body to not miss the strike. And then when the fish is on, it's set up separately to be able to hold on to the hook right there. All of these are wire cabled. I do not want to lose these rigs as they run about $40 to $125 a pop. All right, guys, we're going to look at the Mac Daddy right here of trolling lures for Wahoo, specific to high speed. So this one is by Black Bart. It's a jet head. And if you were to look at the front of it, what you would see is 4 specific holes that are drilled in along the top. That creates a ton of bubbles that come out from behind it when you're trolling and gives a lot of action behind it. You'll see here you've got your squid skirt behind it, a couple different colors of variety. I recommend darker with an undertone of lighter. Just gets both different spectrums of what the fish might see, depending on the condition of the water. You then have wire throughout. Again, Wahoo are very toothy critters. They'll bite right through mono. Then you've got heavy duty crimps along with really sharp, again, you've got to sharpen these after you even buy them before you use them specifically. Sharp hooks that are probably about 10/0 in size. And this thing is going to rip through the water. Now, so is your fish. Wahoo can swim up to 60 miles per hour. So to help you offset the shock that's going to happen when this fish hits this rig, if you're trolling 18 to 25 knots, is you need a shock cord. So a shock cord, in effect, allows for stretch in the line so that when this thing gets hit, it does not rip the face off of your Wahoo and you lose your fish. Guys, the next thing I want to show you is dredge fishing. Dredge fishing is an awesome way to bring up predator fish from lower depths. So what you have right here is Fish Razor. That's the name of the brand that I have. It's very reflective, pink and silver. And what this is a 1-tier umbrella, meaning when you look at it, there's not a second tier right here that it breaks down into and you have 2 sets of these or even 3, which I've seen for some big marlin or sailfish trolling. This will bring up marlin and sailfish, but I wanted to be able to use it to specifically tease in bigger fish. So what you have is heavy duty mono coming off of the top dredge to a naked islander. So this islander does not have a hook and it is stopped by a crimp right up underneath of its skirt here, if you can see it. And that keeps it from sliding up and down on the line for me. So after this flash of islander that you'd get, you would come down to a second islander. Again, this one's just rubber banded for ease for me to keep it together. But this is also stopped by a crimp. So when I back up a little bit, what you see underwater, if you're a big fish, is a school of bait fish being followed by 2 singular fish. Now what you have down here at the very bottom of it is a loop with your mono. So the loop is probably about a 3-inch loop, and that is crimped off at the end. And what I've done is right here in the crimp, I put copper wiring to be able to go through my ballyhoo. So what I'm going to put here is I'm going to rig a ballyhoo on this by simply putting this around the gills of the ballyhoo in its head, in essence at an angle, and then this wire is going to go through its mouth and wrapped around its head. So what you'll have is a naked ballyhoo with no hook coming out the bottom at the very end of the dredge. This is meant to tease up fish, not to catch a fish. If you catch a big fish on this thing, theoretically it could rip it apart. I don't want to lose my rig. This is meant to bring the fish up, then you'll cast out with your other lines to be able to now bring it closer to the boat and have it bite one of those lines with the hook. Guys, when fishing with the dredge, you got to imagine if you don't have a weight on this thing, it's just going to skip all over the top of the surface. you want to be able to bring it down in the water column. So to help you with that, you're going to use a heavy duty weight. This weight right here is aerodynamic. It's shaped in the shape of a fish. It's got a hook point for where you'd hook on your line coming off of your rod, and then this piece connects over into the dredge itself. This is a 4-pound weight, so very heavy, but when you're trolling, you want to bring this down with the weight into the water column, enough for the arms to spread out, to get out of the prop wash, and to be able to attract up big game fish. Another similar dredge setup is this one from Fathom. This one's not as expensive. I want to say it was like 40 or 50 bucks comparative to the other one, which was over 100. So here you just have like these little mylar skirts, and it goes down in a 2-tier system, followed by, or really I should say led by, this hard wooden plastic sort of material, I'm assuming, of this little bird teaser. You've got a heavy duty plastic build in here that's able to hold the arms. They do fold, so it makes it easy for storage. And then what you have here for your bait, this one you can go ahead and rig with a actual hook. So here you can go ahead at the bottom and see there's a snap swivel, a ball bearing snap swivel. So if you wanted to put on a rigged ballyhoo coming off the back here, or even a rigged artificial lure, you can do that and troll this through the water. It's going to skip right over the top of the water, create a lot of action, and look like a school of bait. And again, you're going to bring up a lot of fish with it. All right, guys, well, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed today's video. As you can see, there really is a lot of different lures you can use for offshore fishing. My hope is you guys experiment, try on your own. Comment below, let me know what you like, what you dislike of the lures that I showed, or even other ones that you might recommend for the viewers that are watching to be able to take advantage of. Thanks a lot. See you out on the water, and hope we catch something big.